In all the examples we have looked at so far, we were working with functions that had no dependencies on external resources. But in this lecture, we're going to look at this function, apply discount, and here we're going to use this database object that we import from this module. So here we have this method, get customer sync. It takes the ID of a customer and returns a customer object. Now we check if the customer has more than 10 points, we apply 10% discount to the order. Now, if you look at the implementation of this method, we don't really go to the database to get a customer object. So let's have a look. Here's our database module. I simply have a console.log reading a customer from MongoDB. So I'm simulating a call to MongoDB. We simply return an object with these two properties. Now back to our lib module. So this apply discount function uses this method that touches an external resource, in this case, a database. Now, as I told you before, in your unit tests, you should not talk to external resources. Otherwise, you're writing an integration test. The whole point of unit tests is to decouple your code from these external dependencies that might not be available at the time of running your tests, so you can quickly and reliably execute your tests. Now imagine, instead of getting a customer from a database, we had to get it from a remote HTTP service. We don't want that HTTP service to be up and running when we are running our unit tests. Because if that service is down, our unit test is going to fail and we might assume that there is a bug in our application. But in reality, there is no bug in the application. So in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to unit test a function that directly or indirectly talks to an external resource. So basically, to unit test this function, we need to replace the real implementation of getCustomerSync method with a fake or mock implementation. This mock implementation looks exactly like this function from the outside. It gets a customer ID and returns a customer object, but the implementation is different. It doesn't talk to a database or a remote HTTP service. So let's see how we can replace this real implementation with a fake implementation. Back to our test file. Let's add a new describe block for apply discount function. Now here, this function should apply 10% discount if customer has more than 10 points. So here in our test, we call lib.apply discount. We need to pass an order object. So here's an order object. We set the customer ID to 1 and total price to 10. Now, because we're going to make an assertion against this total price property, I want to extract this object into a separate constant so we can work with it later. So let's call that order. We set order here. And then we expect order.total price to be 9. That is with 10% discount. So this is the body of our test. However, before doing all this work, we need to replace the real implementation of this getCustomerSync method with a fake implementation. This is really easy in plain JavaScript. Let me show you. So back to our test file. On the top, first we need to import the database module. So const database, we require it here. Now, back to our test function. Here we can set db.getCustomerSync to a new function, a function that doesn't talk to a database. So we set this to a function that takes a customer ID and returns a simple object. So the ID of the customer will be here. And we also need the points property, because what we are returning in the real implementation is an object with these two properties, ID and points, okay? So here we can set points to 20. Also, I'm going to add a console.log with a message like fake reading customer. So when we run this test, you're going to see this message as opposed to message that we display in the real implementation, reading a customer from MongoDB. So now back in the terminal, look, all our tests are passing, and here's the message, fake reading customer. So you can see replacing a function or a method in JavaScript is really easy. All we have to do is to set that to a new function. We call this function a fake or a mock function.